Mridanga Brahma Rupaya Lavanam Rasamaduri Sahasraguna Samyuktam Mridangaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. So this lesson deals with Dayan practice, or practicing sounds on in combinations on the small side of the mridanga. So the first practice is Rati Rati Ta. Rati Rati Ta. Rati Rati Ta. Now the Ra kind of comes down and T kind of comes up. Now this is very important to make your closed sound closed and Ta, the open sound, open. Rati Rati Ta. Rati Rati Ta. Now the second one is basically the same, but it's adding extra, a little extra Rati, and it's the mantra is Rati 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 Ta. Rati 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 Ta. And sometimes you notice when different mridanga players play, they'll add a little roll, a quiet roll, when they do rhythms like this. Like, for example, Rati, 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 Ta. You kind of roll the fingers. You'll figure it out, but you have to end up on Ra the first time, so you kind of roll before then. Rati, 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 Ta. So the next one is Ta Ti. Ta Ti, Ta Ti, Ta Ti. So Ta Ti. Ta Ti, 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 Ta Ti. So that you can practice that one, so that's the easy one. Now the fourth one, the next one is Ta Ta Ti. Ta Ta Ti. Ta Ta Ti, Ta Ta Ti, Ta Ta Ti, Ta Ta Ti. Ta Ta Ti, Ta Ta Ti. So now the fifth one is Ta Ta Ti Ti. And you keep repeating that. Ta Ta Ti Ti, Ta Ta Ti Ti, Ta Ta Ti Ti. Ta Ta Ti Ti. You should be light on your hands, and the T is not as Velcro. When you do some of these faster rhythms, make sure the T is not as Velcro as in when you do like Rati Rati Ta. It's more connected, but with these faster ones, they're not so connected. So it's Ta Ta Ti Ti, Ta Ta Ti Ti. Ta Ta Ti Ti, Ta Ta Ti Ti, Ta Ta Ti Ti, Ta Ta Ti Ti, Ta Ta Ti Ti. Now the next one is, now these next, actually the next three are very advanced ones. They're kind of difficult to get, but with constant practice, then it should be easy. And you have to practice and ultimately pray to the Lord to, please help me. So now this next one is T T Tara. T T Tara. T T Tara. T T Tara. And when you repeat that, it sounds like this. I'll gradually speed it up. T T Tara. T Tara. T T Tara. T T Tara. T T. T T Tara. 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 T. Now your hand movement has to be correct in order to get that speed. So T kind of comes up and Tara kind of comes down. Not so emphasized, but that's the ideal, at least from what I noticed but you ultimately have to practice and keep practicing until it feels good, where you can pick it up. T T ta ra, T T ta ra, T T ta ra, T T. T T ta ra, T T ta ra, T T ta ra, T T. Now the next one is similar to T T ta ra, but instead of starting on T, you start on ra first. So it goes ra T T ta, ra T T ta, ra T T ta. So ra T T ta, ra. It starts on ra, ra T T ta, ra T T ta, ra T T ta, ra T ta, ra T T ta. Ra T T ta, ra T T ta, ra T T ta, ra T T ta. So, and now the eighth one, the eighth rhythm is similar to the last two. And it's instead of starting on T or ra, you start on ta actually. So it goes ta ra T T, 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 ta ra T T. Now someone may question, why do you have to start them on different things? Because if you start it on T or on ta or on ra, it changes the complete rhythm of a beat. For example, suppose the sixth mantra that we T T ta ra, it'll sound like this if we started a rhythm. And if you change it up, and then you could do another rhythm by starting with a different sound. For example, on a one count, suppose you started with ra, it'll sound something like this. Ra. Etc. So you'll figure it out. Now, continuing on, the ninth Dayan sound practice is ta ta knock. Now we're going to use the edge here. It goes like this. And you kind of bend your left finger into the mridanga to get that sound. Ta ta knock, ta ta knock. Ta ta knock, ta ta knock, ta ta knock, ta ta knock. Ta ta knock, ta ta knock. And your middle finger is kind of bending to help support that. Now the next one is ta 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 knock, ta 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 knock. Now there's two types of tas we learn. One from tere ke ta, the ta and tere ke ta, you use your whole hand. And the one we learned in the Dayan sounds is with the index finger. So with this practice, it goes ta 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 knock. You go down with the index finger first and come up kind of with the whole hand. Or at least three of the fingers. Index finger, then three of the fingers up for ta. So it goes ta 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 ta, 10 or knock. Ta 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 knock. Ta 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 knock. Now, I did these mantras in the matter of its importance. Now, this one may be very difficult to get. You could practice it, but it's not all important for people who are learning just learning mridanga. But when you want to get into more complicated rhythms, then this is very important. Ta 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 knock. For example, it helps you to get rhythms like this. For example, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, So keep practicing those and keep it up, and you'll be able to be a very good mridango player in due course of time.